With the release of James Gunn's Superman, we now have 9 actors who have portrayed Superman in live action, whether in TV or movies, so it's time to dive in and rank these from worst to best. Worst is kind of a strong word because I actually think all these actors do a fairly decent job, specifically for the time frame that they were in. Number 9, we have Kirk Allen, who is mainly famous for being the first Superman ever. He does a decent job for the time period, but it's not too memorable for me personally. My number 8, which is Dean Cain, also kind of a similar thing. Pretty solid in the show, just not too memorable for me, honestly. Get into my number 7, and this is George Reeves, who I think for me might be a little bit higher than some other people out there. And specifically, I can see this being higher on a lot of other people's lists, but George was never in my time period. When I go back to rewatch some of the stuff, it's really cool, but again, not my cup of tea. Get into my number 6, and that's Brandon Routh, who I think goes above and beyond, is easily the best thing of Superman Returns. A very boring and slightly underrated movie. It's weird to say those two things in the same vein. I think too many people shit on the movie overall, but Brandon Routh, easily the best part, and I think he deserved way better. Then we get into my number 5, and that's Tom Welling. I'm a huge fan of Smallville, and the only reason he's in the middle is because of pure nostalgia, and also because you just see him as Clark Kent. You never actually get to really see him as the Man of Steel, and that is one thing that I really wish we would have gotten a little bit more from Tom Welling, but I understand for what Smallville really was. Then we get into my number 4, and that's David Corenswet. Yes, James Gunn's Superman, and he'd be higher if we got more scenes of him actually as Clark Kent. No, not just Clark Kent with Lois Lane or Clark Kent with other characters. I mean Clark Kent with the glasses on, not with people who know who he is. But I think when I just judge him based on his Superman performance, he is great. And I think as a first-time introduction, I can't wait to see more of him. I think he emotes and he is different than what Henry Cavill did, as well as what Christopher Reeves did. And he formulates his own thing while bringing to life the greatest aspects of those two versions of Superman. And we get into my number 3, probably going to mispronounce this guy's name, but Tyler Hoechlin, who of course is in Superman and Lois, a show that is very underrated. Point of reference, I've never finished the show. I've only seen the first 2 seasons, and I loved him for what he was able to do. Number 2, and I went back and forth with my 1 and 2 for quite a while. On a personal biasness, I think my number 2 is my personal favorite, which is Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill, for me, in the way that Zack Snyder uses his acting capabilities, as well as his emoting, his stoicness, and just the look of his version of Superman, creates this godlike appearance that should be worshipped. And in other ways, the impact of Superman. Number 1, and it's mostly obvious, is Christopher Reeves. That is what I really looked at here. It was not just the nostalgia and the classicness of the original Superman movie, but it is Reeves' performance and specifically how he is able to emote himself and change and flip from Clark Kent to Superman. That's why he's my number 1.